at what we found. It's a big sound in a small town. Far from the bright lights, they're making music every night. Hear what is all around. It's a big sound in a small town. It's a big sound in a small town. It's a big sound in a small town.
Hi, and welcome to Big Sound Small Town. I'm your host, Sandy Carlton, and this is a podcast about the lives and stories of the musicians, writers, artists, and their associates that have their roots in the small towns and communities across America. If you like what you hear, tell somebody. Enjoy.
I made a friend of a flower today, a piece of creation God put in my way. Down near the forest where it had grown wild, poor thirsty petals looked to me and smiled. So I took my cup and went down to the spring, filled up the cup and I gave it a drink. Wasn't so very far out of my way. I made a friend of a flower today. Sometimes a flower gets thirsty and dry when there's not a sign of a cloud in the sky. Well, I couldn't wait for the sky to turn gray, so I made a friend of a flower today. So I took my cup and went down to the spring, filled up the cup and I gave it a drink. It wasn't so very far out of my way. I made a friend of a flower today. Pretty wee flower blushed purple and pink. All that it took was a spring water drink. Seemed like it smiled as I went on my way. I made a friend of a flower today. So I took my cup and went down to the spring, filled up the cup and I gave it a drink. Wasn't so very far out of my way. I made a friend of a flower today.
I hope this memory won't fade away. My little friend growing there in the clay. Just one small flower, but it makes me think. And I hope the angels will give it a drink. I took my cup and went down to the spring, filled up the cup and I gave it a drink. It wasn't so very far out of my way. I made a friend of a flower today. I became buds with a flower today.
Hey, I'm Fayssoux Starling in the music business, and my real name is Sarah Fayssoux Dunbar Starling Mcclean. So I started out not realizing I had any kind of musical picture in the future. I just started singing a little bit, playing a little piano, and I knew I had a good ear, but I had no ambition to be a musician or anything. I had a grandmother who played old black blues songs or little folk songs, and I thought she wrote them, but she didn't. And she used to play the piano and sing these old songs. And 2 of those are on one of my records, Amen
really?
Chillin' and Weepin' Mary.
Oh, okay.
Her twin sister, Caroline, was a grand opera singer in New York.
Wow.
Her brother was an opera singer in New York. Her first cousin was Lily Strickland, who's in the Southeast Important Composers book.
Right.
And so I would try to imitate my grandmother, Mary Jane. We called her as a nickname. Mary Miller was her name. And she would say, "Don't bang, play." So I didn't want to practice too much on the piano when she was listening.
Oh, yeah.
But she had a great touch on the piano, and
I'm sure.
she sang all these little songs. And my father and his sisters and brother would all get around the piano, and it was like heaven. I loved this when they came to visit, because they would sing all these songs, and there was every harmony. It was all familial, wonderful harmony.
How old would you have been at this point?
Oh, from the time I was little, tiny little girl, you know.
That's cool. That's
And
really,
they would, but it would happen, you know, on Christmas or
Right.
some different occasion.
Special occasions, yeah.
And so I loved music from an early time, and I used to listen to classical music some.
Right, yeah.
Listen to little Dave Brubeck,
Yeah,
a little
Dave
bit
Brubeck,
of Tommy Condon,
Yeah.
little, you know, all kind of stuff.
Right.
And then when I was about 18, a boy that I dated introduced me to real bluegrass. I had heard some of it on the radio, like
Right.
WORD,
Yeah,
you know,
sure, yeah.
in Spartanburg.
Yeah.
And I'm third generation Spartanburg person, so I have lived there, you know, and I know about the radio station.
Yeah.
And I would hear this wonderful bluegrass music when I was sick from school. If I stayed home, I would
Yeah,
turn on
could
the
hear
radio.
that, right.
And they would advertise color back for you know, getting the gray out of a man's hair. And Farmer Gray came on. I think Freddie Vanderford played on Farmer Gray's program.
I think he did, yeah.
And so that was my introduction. No personal experience with that
Right.
kind of thing. But when I met Julian Josie, he was the one that taught me about the bluegrass stuff. And he would get teased about it, and because he was an addict, just total addict.
Just
and he
loved it to
thought
death.
he knew more about it than anybody, and he probably did know a lot
He
about
probably
it.
did.
Anyway, so then Julian introduced me to John Starling.
Oh, okay.
By way of, John was my ride to go to Bowman Gray Medical School to see Julian for a football weekend.
Oh, really?
So I met John Starling, and he was impressed that I could sing harmony like Ralph Stanley. So I had already kind of learned a few of those little 45s that Julian had let me borrow.
Right.
Some of the music off of those, I was singing those things, and he thought that was great. So then eventually, John and I got together, and because John could play and sing like
Yeah, he
nobody's
could.
business.
Yes, he could.
And I went to USC, University of South Carolina,
Right.
in Columbia, and my roommate was engaged to John Starling's roommate.
Oh, okay.
So we eventually got together because of that too, you know.
So you had a lot of connections there before anything ever
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
So then John went to University of Virginia Medical School, and he kind of talked me into applying for the graduate school because I
Right.
was going into learn about speech pathology and audiology. So I applied, and it was when women were not allowed in undergraduate
Oh,
school.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I went to graduate school, and that's where we met Ben. I met Ben Eldridge,
Yeah.
and all that group that would become the Seldom
Seldom
Scene
Scene.
later on. You know, so that was the
Was that pretty,
road to that. You know.
Was that pretty cool?
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure it was.
yeah.
I mean, that was pretty much bluegrass history in the making there.
It really was, and we loved going to picking parties. Just it was like what you did. That's all we
Right.
wanted to do, was go to picking parties.
Were you singing at that point?
I would always sing with John.
Right.
I mean, we would sing anything he could sing. I could harmonize with, because that's what I.
Well, and you
that's
know,
what
you
I
realize
do.
that is harmony singing is, at least from my standpoint, 2/3 of singing. I mean,
Oh, it's
good harmony singers are harder to find than good lead singers, really.
well. I'm surprised at how that's true, because when I've gotten up to sing with a band here and there, and I would sing a lead, they wouldn't know, they wouldn't be able to do the harmony. I thought, what is wrong? And then I realized that not everybody has that particular ear and that feel for it.
And bluegrass is full of harmony. I mean, that is one of the...
And a different harmony.
It's a different harmony, no doubt.
So different from barbershop or any other kind of harmony. It has its own, like, Scottish scale or something. But anyway, I love bluegrass. But, so anyway, on to the next part.
Right.
And then John went to Vietnam. We got married. John went to Vietnam. We ended up in Washington, D.C., where he did his internship at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And so I was president of the Army Wives Club. So we did our little thing, and they did their thing. And the bluegrass would go on like once a week. We would all meet, and at least the guys would meet at Ben Eldridge's house and have picking.
So Ben was still around at that point.
Oh, I mean, Ben was.
It was like reconnecting after you went to Vietnam.
Yes, and we even moved on the same street.
Oh, that's
we
cool.
lived right down the street from Ben. So if people weren't at Ben's house, they were at our house.
Okay.
And we had all sorts of people come through our house to play music. And then, of course, the Red Fox Inn got the bluegrass thing started with the Seldom Scene.
And that had to be really cool to be a part of that.
Oh, that was great. And they'd all come over to our house afterwards, and we would pick and sing until like 2 and 3 in the morning. And I remember John's superior officer at Walter Reed said, you're not going to be able to do surgery, ear, nose, and throat surgery, and pick bluegrass music. It just can't be done. Well, John was very competitive with himself and very single-minded, and he said, I'll show him. You know, that's his attitude. It was not like nobody's going to cower him. Right. He's going to say, no, I'm going to prove that I can do it all, you know. And he did. So it was great fun having all kind of people come through the house, like Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou and Lowell George and Ricky Skaggs and just you name it. You know, they were young and they were becoming all these things if they hadn't already become.
Did you realize how talented those people were then?
Oh yeah, it's obvious how talented they were.
I mean, it is when you have talented people like that. It's pretty obvious that they're more talented than
I didn't always know who was famous.
Right.
But I knew who was talented.
Who was talented. And there's a difference, but you know, there really is, between being famous and talented.
And I remember one time, Lowell George and Linda was staying with us for a little while, Linda Ronstadt, and Lowell was in the den with all these musicians they were playing. And Lowell said, you know, I can't get the feel I want for the percussion. And I went in the kitchen and got an egg whisk and a cheese grater, and I went, he said, that's it, that's it. And I thought, oh no, I messed myself up because now I have to play on the record.
Now, did you wind up doing that?
Yeah. And it was on Mike Aldridge's Everybody Slides record, Blues and Bluegrass. Yeah. And Lowell played slide, Michael played slide, and everybody was doing all kinds of things. And Linda Ronstadt and I sang together on Bottom Dollar. It was just quite a...
And you had to do
And I had to do the cheese grater.
And did you use the actual cheese grater and whisk?
The cheese grater and the whisk.
That's great.
And I thought, if I mess up, everybody's going to have to stop. And this is just horrible to me. You know, I would do anything rather than cause trouble. Just, But it worked. It worked fine. And I was glad when it was over.
Do you remember where you guys did that at?
Oh God, yeah, it was probably at Bias Studio in Alexandria or Falls Church, Virginia, somewhere like that.
Yeah, I think it's in one.
I'm not positive about exactly where, because with Lowell, I think we recorded some on Blue Seas Studio, which was in a boat.
Oh, that's cool too.
And that was odd. And then the boat burned later.
Really?
It disappeared. Yeah, it just burned to the ground. I mean, to the water.
Right, to the water. Oh, that is really cool too. That's So that's okay. Was at this time was the whisk grater the first time you had recorded?
You know, I think it was probably not the first time, but the only time I felt such pressure.
Oh yeah.
And
of your own making by coming out with it.
Oh gosh, because one misstep and then you have to stop. And I just thought, oh Lord, and that was not my thing.
Oh, right, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but
do you remember the first record you sang on during that time?
Well, Emmylou and I sang on a Herson's motorcycle ad.
Oh, really?
In Washington, D.C., we recorded it, and I was in the studio for a long time because there was a note in there that was flat, and I was relating to that note,
right,
instead of relating to the note that would keep me on track.
Right.
And I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it.
That.
And they even brought some some kind of bourbon and said, "Try this," Right. And I thought, well, it's not going to help. And we finally got it done. But the line in the song was, "When it's gritty in the city, a ride in the country makes you feel kind of clean." It was like Herson's. I think it was Herson's motorcycle.
That's funny.
I may have it wrong, but your memory clouds things and mixes things up. So I could be wrong.
That's pretty cool though.
And it was fun doing that.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But I'll tell you how I met Emmylou, because a lot of people want to know that.
Yeah.
Is John and I were at home, and he said, "I think I want to go down to Clyde's to see this girl Emmylou Harris." I said, "Okay." So he goes down to Clyde's, and the next thing I know, whenever the show was over, he comes walking up the steps with Emmylou. So he brought her home. And we sat up and sang all kind of songs, and that's when we all started getting to know each other. And
that's pretty cool.
And then she had her band practicing at my house, and we were always together doing something.
Was Rodney Crowell in that band at that time?
No. This was her first little band was Angel Band.
Okay, yeah.
And Rodney was in California,
right.
So that was later.
Okay.
But this was Tom Geider was doing the bass playing. He was her boyfriend at the time. But anyway, so that was fun to get to know all those wonderful musicians in her band.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then she got, Brian Ahern came to see her at the Red Fox when she was playing, and it's the first time I've ever seen an aluminum briefcase.
Oh, really?
And it's probably in '73 or something like that, or '74. But Brian was an individual, quite an individual.
I have heard that he was.
Oh, he was amazing, a producer. When you meet him, when I met him, he had on a caftan.
Really?
You don't usually see a guy with this long,
No.
robe, and his hair is like just little ringlets, little blonde ringlets. Like if you've ever read that book, The Little Prince.
Oh yeah,
Prince.
yeah. I have.
Okay, well that's what his hair looked like. And as the story goes, after I met Brian and we all went out to record and all kind of stuff, one day Emmylou was going to record with Bob Dylan in New York, and so she brought me along with her and Brian to go to the studio in New York. So Brian didn't want to be too intrusive, so they introduced me to Bob Dylan, and Emmy thought I was going to be the next harmony singer for Bob, but she didn't realize that Bob Dylan picks his own harmony singers long before all that happened.
Oh, yeah,
so he said, "How do you do?" And we kind of left, and Brian says, "Let's just go to the bookshop or something. We'll just wait for Emmy to get finished." So we did, and then when he came back, he said, "I think I need my hair cut." And I said, "Right here in CBS?" He said, "Yeah, let's just sit up right there on the steps." And I said, "I don't have any scissors. I don't have a brush. I don't have a comb." And he's from, Nova Scotia, so he says out and about.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I said, "Where's your brush or your comb, Brian?" He says, "I don't have one. I've never used one. And if you put one in my hair, I'll pass out." So anyway, we sat on the steps, and I cut his hair. And so that was it. And these famous people would walk by, and I didn't even know they were famous at the time. But now that I think about it and know who they were, I used to say, "Well, hello," and like very calm and casual relationships. But anyway,
that's this is a strange part. A guy who lived next to me wound up being, we played briefly in a band together, wound up being in the Seldom Seen too, a later version, Michael Coleman.
Oh,
He
yeah.
wound up being a bass player there.
Yeah.
After he'd played with Doc for a while, Doc
They
Watson.
call him Michael T. Coleman, don't they?
Yeah. So he's Mike when we lived
Yeah.
beside each other. But he took me to Doc's one time, and we were kind of tuning. It was before days of tuners, and he said, "Somebody's just like 100th of a cent." And I knew it was me because I was the new guy, and everybody was touching their tuners and trying to get it. I didn't touch mine. I just left it where it was. And he said, it's okay. He was just letting us know he knew, and he probably knew who it was too from the direction it went. But it was it.
It made you think twice.
It did. I mean, I always figured it was me just because that was my first time there. I mean, and probably I don't have perfect pitch.
But there's a technique to get around being so direct, and he had it,
and he was good at it. Yeah, oh yeah. But he wanted to let you know that he knew somebody wasn't just 100% on it. So, but but yeah,
he could have just handed you the tuner and
yeah,
say, "Hey,
he could have. Yeah, he could have. So it was. But okay, now. But you guys didn't stay in Virginia, did you?
Well, we were divorced, so he stayed in Virginia, and I moved to Washington.
Okay.
And then I got remarried, so John went on to Fort Belvoir to do residency and all kind of other stuff, and he got remarried too. And then the Seldom Seen changed a little bit because John Duffy passed away.
Right.
John retired from that, and
Right.
then Phil Rosenthal took his place.
Oh yeah, forgot about Phil.
Yeah, and so in fact, in 2009, I went to the Netherlands. I was going to be in the EWOB, European World of Bluegrass Festival. It's a competition, and Brandon was supposed to go with me. This is and suddenly he couldn't go, and I went, "Oh no!" and I just boo-hooed and said, "I'm not going. I have to cancel everything." He said, "Fayssoux, you can do it." And I thought, if he has that much faith in my ability, maybe I can.
Did you have to play guitar yourself?
I did, and but I told the girl who was organizing the festival, I said, my guitar player, my main fella, is not going to be able to be there. She said, "I've got you covered. There's a guy named Kevin Lynch who's been a DJ in Boston for 15 years. He plays a Lloyd Loar mandolin, and he's here in the Netherlands, ready to go on the road." I said, "Oh gosh, I guess that does sound better."
Yeah.
So anyway, so I flew over there and started up with Kevin Lynch playing the mandolin. And then all of a sudden, Tom Gray of the Seldom Seen lets me know he's there too.
Oh.
He said, "Do you want me to get Bill Clifton's band to help you out?" I said, "Absolutely." Wow. We all met in the parking lot of this festival thing where we were supposed to play that night, competition. And we played everything in the parking lot.
Learned the whole show right there.
Right? No, we didn't win. But it was so neat. It was like the stars were lined up.
Yeah,
it really was.
That's that is really cool. Now, well, you brought up Brandon. How did you ever meet Brandon?
Well, I was teaching school here in Spartanburg when my husband retired and we moved back here to Spartanburg.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's back that one up. Then, how did you get back to Spartanburg? I guess I didn't think about that.
Well, I remarried, and then my husband said, "I would like to retire." I said, "Well, you know what? We have a daughter who is going into the 6th grade, so as soon as you can retire, let's go. And if we move to Spartanburg, this is a good time because when you enter the 6th grade, you start making very good friends."
Yeah.
And I said, if you pull her out of her little friendship group, it'll be tough, So we moved back to Spartanburg, and this was where Spartanburg is where I've lived all along. And he liked the idea of the South as well. So, what was I going to tell you?
We moved to Spartanburg.
Moved to Spartanburg.
Yeah.
I can't think what we were owned.
Well, we were. I was asking you how
You'll
you
have
got
to edit
back,
this out because I don't know what the heck we're talking about.
how you got back to Spartanburg from. Where were you at when you came from back to Spartanburg?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. You asked me how I got to know Brandon.
Yes.
All right. When I moved back to Spartanburg, I started teaching school, and Brandon's mother was an assistant in a classroom in my school.
Oh, okay.
And she was a wonderful, wonderful lady, and she still is, by the way. Anyway, so she said, Fayssoux, my son, Brandon, plays the guitar, and I think he's talented. And she said, would you like to listen to him? I said, yeah. So she brought him over, and he played. And
he had to come live to play?
he just drove her. She drove him over, and we sat in the classroom, and he pulled the guitar, and he was very quiet. He was not outgoing at all.
He's still very quiet.
And so his mother said, Brandon, play like Elvis. Well, Brandon would lurch into this Elvis impersonation and just went like all out, Then he said, play like somebody else. And then he would change and do all this other kind of different genre. I mean, just everything. And I thought, my Lord. So from that moment on, I figured this is something I want to get Brandon's name out there. I want to help him and get him around. So I got a friend to write an article about him, and then he did a lot of this all on his own, of course, because he played with Freddie Vanderford too. And so we started playing. And then I met Peter Cooper.
Yeah.
And Peter was in Spartanburg after graduating from Wofford. And Peter made a point of having me interview him, be in an interview so he could be in his book.
Right.
So he said, unfortunately, my book is going to press tomorrow, something like that. So it was one of those stop the presses thing.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to be in the book.
Right.
And he said, have you got a picture? So I gave him a picture of me and Emmylou singing together somewhere. And he put that in there. So that was the beginning of playing with Peter.
Okay.
And he really insisted that I start singing lead after we'd been doing shows together, doing harmony. He wanted me to sing lead.
Was that the first time you actually moved to the forefront as a lead singer?
Well, I did a little bit of that in Washington when Emmy left for California with her band, and her band was left behind. I played with them for about 9 months, but I had no clue what I was doing, and I was just wow. In fact, Emmylou had sent me a letter from California back when she was discovered, and she said, everybody in the hot band wants you to come to California. Can you move out here? And I thought, no. I said, I didn't tell anybody this, but what it was I had never been ambitious about singing.
Right.
And I didn't have, as I call it, a backpack full of songs to do. I wasn't prepared to do anything on my own at all. And all I could see was me doing drugs and falling on hard times or something. So I didn't go, and I just, but it just took a while. I had to kind of grow into that genre. I had to figure out what I was doing, and Peter kind of helped that along because he had an idea of what he wanted to do. He's ambitious, and he's well versed in all the different genres of music, and so he helped get me into that.
So he kind of pushed you to the forefront.
Yeah. And now I feel like I'm just such a late bloomer. It's like it's taken a long time, but I'm having a great time.
I was getting ready to ask you, is it fun being in the front?
It's great. It's fun just playing.
It's not fun.
It's not fun doing the show as much as it is just hearing everybody together. That's the payoff for me, is hearing yourself among all these fantastic musicians, having it sound good.
True.
That's the whole payoff to me.
Well, that's one of the things they say. You play music for free. you charge people for all the other junk that comes with it, you know. So, you know, and I mean, so many times it's one of those things you can leave not really wanting to go do the job, but once you step up there and the music starts, it's like, yeah, this is fun, you know.
Yeah.
So you meet. So I guess at some point, at this point, you bring Brandon aboard, right?
So Brandon is just my go-to. He's the guitar player I play with mostly. You know.
How old would he have been when he started playing with you?
He was 19.
19.
And we've been playing together for more than 15 years.
Yeah, that's great. I mean,
it's like he and Freddie have a longevity as well as he and I. You know, we have the same kind of thing.
Yeah, he you know, that's he was telling me, and I was kind of pointing it out to him, that he has a really cool deal because he's never had to be in a quote band, that he just went from being a kid to being a sideman that makes you sound better, you know, which is really cool. I mean, he did the same for, you know, he did the stuff for Freddie, you know, he got to work with you. I mean, and now he works with Angela. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are actually really good jobs. Mm-hmm. You know, as a guitarist, those are really good jobs.
And Brandon's he's always in demand, you know, because he can play anything. Yeah. If you look on any of my records, that he's played bass, he's played melodeon, played guitar, he's played I don't know what all he's played, and he sang harmony and all kind of stuff. So.
Well, that is just it seems like was a pretty good connection for the two of you guys.
Oh, and he, as a person, they don't come any finer.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I would trust Brandon with my life. I mean, he's humble, and he's fine, and he's smart, and he has good judgment, and you could just trust him.
Yeah, that's great.
Because you know that what he does is for your benefit as well as his benefit.
Well, and that's what he told me. He said, you know, I listen to what the people are doing and try my very level best to make it as good as I can. Mm-hmm. And I believe that. Mm-hmm. You know,
and he'll spotlight another musician and help them be better than they are. That's the way he is.
That's how you wish all musicians were.
Yeah.
Now, has COVID affected you? I mean, have you?
Oh yeah, it's affected all of us so much. I mean, I've had people that I know die. I've had people in the hospital, close friends that have recovered. I mean, it's everywhere. And since March, we have so many jobs canceled.
Yeah,
And for a good while, we've only been playing outside.
Right.
And have been fortunate to have those jobs.
Right.
And the few jobs that we have played inside have been inside big, high-ceilinged structures, so that you know there's good airflow everywhere.
Yeah.
And staying away from people.
Sure.
So we believe that we have to do our best.
Are you booking stuff or trying to book stuff these days?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always.
I mean, that's, you know, we're rolling into a new year, and that's one of the things we're faced with. Well, we may as well go ahead and book.
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But if we don't and then try to book, it's not going to be there. So
that's right. So, it's like making a reservation to go somewhere. If you don't have it,
if you don't have it,
you can't get it.
Right.
But you can cancel it.
You can cancel it, which is kind of what. Do you do all that yourself? You have an agent these days?
I don't have any agent or anything. I just do it myself.
Do it yourself?
Yeah.
That is beautiful, though. I mean, you know, actually so many artists are doing that these days. I mean, they're skipping the managers. You know, it's more of a hands-on world than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of times I think if you hire somebody to do that, and then you also have a speaking relationship with some of these people that are hiring you, a lot of times you are doing the groundwork, but they're getting the money.
True, yeah.
So it happens often that maybe several jobs you will have gotten, but they will say, these are my jobs.
Exactly.
So it's kind of doubling up a little bit.
You know, I've been there where you might need originally to get a foot in, but actually after you get your foot in and get a little established, you can do that yourself. I mean, it kind of your
It helps
passport.
It helps to be OCD.
Well, it does. Yes, it does. Yes.
And I'm random. And what makes me do better is to have something canceled. Then I will go out and find 3 jobs in a day. You know, I get motivated from threats.
That's a good way though to be. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. My musical path these days, it's all over the place. I can't. It's just a whole different time musically. That it consists a lot of Zooms and a lot of songwriting via Zoom and the live streaming performances. Which have you done any of that?
You know, I've only done a Zoom with my drum teacher.
Right.
And I take drums.
What you take drum?
Oh yeah, I
drum
do.
le-
I have a good time taking drums. I
That's
take
fun,
guitar
though.
and I take drums. And you know, people always say, "Gosh, I wish I could play the drum." I said, "Well,
Can't get a
you
lesson.
can. If you're interested,
you
you can
can.
do it. You have to be interested, though."
Right. Oh, you do. And
I mean,
you
it
have
has
to put
nothing
the time.
to do with your age or anything. If
it
you can
doesn't.
hold the drumsticks and you can take
Yep.
direction, you can probably try.
That's pretty cool. And not only that too, you can. It's the enjoyment you bring that it brings you. You know, and
Yeah.
and plus one of the things that I always hear with people, I don't have the time. Well, yeah, if you don't have the time to practice, I mean, it takes practice.
Well, they probably have time to watch TV.
Yeah, they do, and you could do it during that time.
Yeah.
When you first started playing guitar, did you just practice all the time?
No. No.
Do you-
But I first played John Starling's guitar.
Oh, that's when you first
It's
started?
Martin, yeah. He would let me use his guitar, and he taught me the chords.
Right.
And so then that's how that started. And then I finally, like in the mid-'70s, a friend of John said, "Fayssoux, I think I found a guitar for you." And I knew he was an expert at repair and
Right.
everything else. And I said, "Get it." So he did, and I still have that guitar.
Oh, you still have it?
Yeah.
You still play it?
I do.
Oh, that's
and
great.
it was a 1953 Martin.
Ah.
It's a D18, no decoration.
Right.
Just a wonderful, sturdy, not sturdy, but great guitar.
D18s are great guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. They're one of my favorite. I've had D28s and D35s and stuff, but a D18 has been a workhorse.
It really is.
It really is, and you can't beat the tone. I mean, it's great. So,
Now, it doesn't like a capo. It's not friends with the capo.
well,
But not many guitars are the same.
No,
When you put a
no, they're
capo,
not.
you have to
but
kind of retune.
but you, well, at least now what you do these days, I guess you would call it singer-songwriter stuff more than bluegrass.
I have a bluegrass band, and
Well,
I
I
have
guess
a
it's
country
not.
band, and I have a Brandon band.
That's
And
funny.
so, I mean, I have 3 or 4 configurations that I
Right.
can fit into depending
good,
on
though.
what's available as far as a gig is concerned.
I guess that allows you to work more since you have
Yeah,
those combinations.
yeah.
That's pretty good. That's
And it's fun. I like variety, and
Right.
I like bluegrass, and I like country, and I like so many different genres.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of made a living playing so many different things just because I like a lot of different music, and I learned to play it early in my life. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned as a bass player. I'm not a bass player by want to be, but I can work all the time as a bass player. I mean, there's always, I play upright,
That's
I
fabulous.
play electric,
Yeah.
and yeah, I get to work a lot.
Now, where did that expression come? I've heard people say a bass note on an upright blooms,
Yeah, it does, because it kind of,
and it does.
It does.
It's different from electric.
Oh, it's totally
It just has a
different.
totally different
it does. It
feel
does.
to
I
it.
mean, even once you hit those notes and let them ring out, they almost take a life of their own differently than on an electric guitar,
Yeah.
on an electric basis. So, it's, you know, it's, so I can play bluegrass upright bass a lot. I could do that well, not during this time, but this is Cleveland County, and there used to be 100 bluegrass bands here, and I could play pretty much continuously as an upright bluegrass bass player.
Mm-hmm.
But now we do not have as many bluegrass bands here, and so I'm pretty much working as an electric bass player. But it works. I mean, I have regular people I play with, so it still works. Do you write?
I have. I have several songs on my CDs that I've written, and I enjoy that. I might keep one. A lot of times people say the same thing. They'll keep one going from years past that it's never been finished.
Well,
and there's always that.
That's how I wind up with a co-write a lot of times. Is I get stuck with the song I've had. I actually just finished a Christmas song with a guy that I'd had maybe 6 years that I could never finish with anything that I was comfortable with, and I sent it to him, and he finished it instantly.
And you liked it.
And I liked it.
That's great.
You know, and it was one of those things that by nature I'm not a co-writer, but then I have songs that I've never been able to finish to my liking that I would rather offer somebody else a chance to do something with it, so it just doesn't sit there wasted.
Yeah.
So I'm a hesitant co-writer.
I kind of am that too.
You know, you get stuck sometimes. But
Yeah.
so what you got going in the future?
More of the same.
That's great.
Hopefully, if we can get some gigs. No, I still love to play.
I was getting ready to ask you.
There's no exit ramp going from.
Oh, that's good. So I mean, you're still every bit about it as you've always been. That's great. Yeah. I mean, you know, I like it when musicians want to continue on and not just okay, I've reached a certain age, I have to quit.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people that do that in every kind of aspect of their lives, but
yeah, I mean, but obviously your health is good.
Yeah, obviously, I'm glad that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean you still look glamorous. You still look good. I'm sure your voice is probably still as good.
Oh, it's
as
even better.
Yeah, see, there you go. So
I mean, it really is better. I think it really is better in some ways.
You know,
because you develop your own style more as you get older, and you know that my tone might be better when I was younger, but my interpretation was not better.
Do you get opportunity to sing harmony much these days?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
I sing a lot of harmony.
I didn't know if it was just always you out front these days and
No, I play with Randy Foster, who does a lot of songwriting.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of harmony singing with him and some lead, and Brandon plays in that group. That's almost acoustic. That little band is almost acoustic. And so, I mean, I mix and match. I do a little of everything.
That's good. That's good. You know, it's funny how, and I think I'm just warped, but I think being known as a wonderful harmony singer is about the best thing compliment somebody can pay you, because I just don't come across a lot of them.
Yeah. You know? Well, I guess I'm a little odd duck, because when people ask me about listening to songs on the radio, I'll say that I don't sing along on the melody.
Oh yeah.
I said the melody's already there, so I sing on the notes that are not there. They're in there somewhere.
They're in there, yeah.
They're in there in the instrumentation, but not in the singing.
Yeah.
So I always have sung harmony since I was just intrinsically geared up like that.
Yeah, and no one taught you to do that.
Mm-mm.
But you had a lot of singing at your house.
Well, a little bit when my relatives would show up, but we didn't sing as a rule. We just when special occasions.
Did you have parental support with being a musician, or did it just happen?
It happened too late for that.
Too late to that, yeah. Lucky you. I mean, so many people, some have parental support, but more, you know, usually they don't, you know, when you're going to get a real job.
No, I've always had some kind of support when I was small. We had a Lake Lure house that we'd
Yeah.
go spend the summers, and we had a piano and a little window that looked out over the porch.
Right.
And my father would say, "Please get up there and sing Feuding, Fighting, and Fussing." It was a Dorothy Shea record they had. And I'd get in that little window and put the record on, and then I would sing the same thing she was singing,
Right.
but louder and out there, you know. And they would just clap and carry on, but that's about it. You know.
That's
And
great.
then Daddy would say, "Now, Fayssoux, play the piano." And if I didn't want to, he said, "Well, would you rather have a whipping?"
Oh, yeah. No, I'm playing the piano.
Well, I don't believe so. I think I'll
Yeah.
play the piano.
You know, this is one of the things I love, and I've always noticed when I've heard you sing on stuff, you definitely cannot escape your South Carolina accent.
Oh.
You know, it's I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, and I worked so hard. I did not want to carry that accent, and I worked really, really hard. And I don't know that I ever totally escaped it, but as an adult now, I kind of wish I had it back, because
Well,
you can tell a South Carolinian, they just have that accent.
Well, it's funny, when I went to school, when I first left to go to college, my roommate was from Indiana.
Oh yeah.
And another girl would be from Indiana, and somebody else would be from Oklahoma, and they'd say, "Fayssoux, say water lily." And I'd say water lily. And they go, "Listen to that. Listen, say it again, Fayssoux. Water lily." They just loved it.
Oh, I mean, I can pick out someone from South Carolina if they're living in Turkey. I don't know, anywhere, you know. Oh, you're from South Carolina, you know. So, but it's a unique thing to be proud of.
Yeah.
But I shame myself for trying to change that, but I can't recreate it now.
Well, you might, but it might sound a little
Yeah,
peculiar.
it would probably sound forced.
Yeah.
What else do I need to know?
I don't know.
It's a pretty interesting story.
I sure would like to see you play somewhere. I want to get a.
Yeah, and I'd like to.
Yeah.
When COVID is over, also when we get back to doing this in the room here, I'd love for you guys to come. Whichever ensemble you want to bring.
Okay.
I guess this is the Earl Scruggs Center, so maybe a bluegrass ensemble
Yeah.
would be good.
And Brandon has pinch hit in my bluegrass band. Brandon has played bass. He will do anything you need if he wants to do it.
Right.
You know, he'll come and play all night.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great that you have a go-to person like that.
Yeah.
I have reluctant go-to people. I mean, Brandon seems to be pretty much wanting to play. Cleveland County has a lot of musicians, though. There's a lot to draw from here. Just like Spartanburg is loaded with musicians. That area is pretty loaded. All right, well,
just give me a call. We'll come right up.
all right. I appreciate you taking the time to come up here and do this.
Well, I love this building. It's wonderful, and I
is
think what you're
wonderful.
doing is grand.
Thank
and
you.
I want to encourage you to keep doing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, the green rolling hills of West Virginia,